Now I'd just like to introduce Peter. Peter Martin has been active in the Joomla community since 2005 as one of the global forum moderators. He's the owner of DB8, a Joomla support and custom development firm based in the Netherlands, which he founded in 2005. His work also includes data2.eu, which is an online web tool for GDPR compliance. He has developed data2site.com, a component to help you manage and edit articles more easily, and also v1d30.net, which allows users to collaborate safely with the Big Blue Button video conference platform. Peter is an active volunteer for Joomla.org, the Joomla user group in Arnhem, Nijmegen, which I hope I pronounced correctly.
Nijmegen.
I'm sorry?
Nijmegen in Dutch, but Nijmegen in English.
Nijmegen, okay. And also the Linux user group in that area and an open coffee group in the area. And some of Peter's interests include music, art house movies, the Raspberry Pi, Debian Linux, and trivia. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Peter to the stage, and please take it away, Peter.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, I'm Peter Martin, and I made thebestwebsite.com, literally. And this presentation will be about how I came to the idea and how I made it. So, first of all, Dave already told me that I have my own company. This presentation will be online afterwards, and all the blue links are clickable. So, Dave already told everything about me, so I just continue with my presentation. It will be in 3 parts. The tweaking part is the second part, and after that I have a third part. And between we can do a couple of questions, and you can ask questions on the chat so Dave can see it. So the idea, how I came to the idea of making thebestwebsite.com. I'm active on the internet a long time, and I see a lot of bad websites, especially governmental websites. Some websites are slow, or the navigation is confusing, sometimes difficult to read, and I really hate cookie warnings, and also the please subscribe to our mailing list popovers. I read a book once from Steve Krug called Don't Make Me Think, and I use it for a presentation optimizing the Joomla backend, and I always try to think about how Steve Krug writes about skip things, remove things, only put necessary stuff on your website so people are not confused. So in Google Chrome, there is an option to test websites, and I will press F12 now, and you can see there is a Lighthouse, so I can test this website just by generate a report, and these are the things that you can test on. That's what I also use sometimes when I visit websites, and sometimes they are really bad. Well, this is just a mock-up. Anyway, here in the Netherlands, we have a small farmer shop in my neighborhood near Nijmegen. And if you know food from the Netherlands, you probably know stroopwafels, or pronounced stroopwafels. Those are caramel cookies, but we have something else as well. It's called licorice. In Holland, we call it drop, and you can have sweet or salty ones. I'm not really a big fan of that, but anyway, it's very famous in Dutch, in Holland, I mean. So in last September, I was doing some shopping in a local farmer's shop, and in the queue for the checkout, I saw this drop, this licorice called de beste drop ooit, meaning the best licorice ever. And on top of it, it says Klepper and Klepper present de beste drop ooit, according to Klepper and Klepper. And when I saw it, I had to laugh about it, because it's a bit pretentious to offer your drop, your licorice like that. So in the afternoon, I was having a cup of tea, just like I'm having now. And I was sitting on the couch and thinking about an idea I already had for some time, and it was to create a website that's really optimized, and I would show it to my own customers, so to let them see how they could do things on their website to make it better. And then I was thinking about the licorice and about the package, and I was also thinking about, okay, what if I create a website about optimizing websites? So a website about websites. And also, when I do something about that, I have to describe what is a good website for visitors and what is a good website for administrators. And of course, I should also show why my website about it is good itself. And also, I would offer some tests that you can run on your own website. And when you do the Google Lighthouse, you hope to get 4 times 100%, but that's really difficult. So more realistic is like 98, 92 or so. If you are above 90, it's already good in comparison with other websites. So in the afternoon, I just Googled, is it still available, the bestwebsite.com, and it was. And I also noticed that the Dutch version, debestewebsite.nl, was also available. So I decided to register those. And on Monday in my office, I was thinking about, well, you know what? If I create a new website and it's multilingual, why not just do 5 languages? And these are languages that I can understand a bit. So I also registered diebestewebsite.de, which is German, Le Meilleur Site Web for the French, and El Mejor Sitio Web for the Spanish language. And what I did, oh yeah, a website is never finished. You always have to keep on changing stuff and improve stuff. You have new insights, and also the technology changes. So there is new functionality, and you have to test your website for that. Also, some test methods sometimes change, so you have to test it as well. And I have made this website, and I kept on tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and at the end, I had 4 times 100. And when you have 4 times 100 in Google Lighthouse, you have this nice animation. So how did I approach this making of the best website? Well, first of all, I have a couple of principles. When I create websites, they need to be easy to maintain. And if you use Joomla, it could be easy to maintain if you don't install too much stuff. So please stick to the core. I use Joomla, and I try to use Joomla to the max, to all the features that are inside, especially with the custom fields these days. That is really nice to use in your website. So I created a website, I optimized it, I tested it, I optimized it, tested it, etc. And of course, when you talk about the best practices, you should also use it yourself. So the best practices I describe on my website are the ones 7 principles for visitors, 7 things for administrators, and some of them can also be for, of course, the visitors. I mean, the visitors also need to find your website easy, but for an administrator, this is really, yeah, they need to optimize their website so it's easy to find. Otherwise, they won't have visitors. And if you think about profitable, that doesn't mean that you have to earn a profit with your website. It just means, are you you have some goals with your website, and are you meeting those goals? So I started on my local computer. I have a local website, web server, and I installed Joomla 3.9. I created just one category, 4 articles in it, and every article has an intro image and a full text. I also created one menu item, which is a category block, and underneath it, I created 4 submenu items that all point to the single article. And then I started to do some Lighthouse tests, and I tweaked and I tested and tweaked. Sometimes you can't do on your local system, like I don't have HTTPS on my local system, so I needed to test it on the server. So I created a backup with Akiba backup, and I restored it on a remote server. And when you do something on a server, make sure you have a fast hosting. Don't go for the $5 hosting per year or something. There are in the Netherlands, there is a hosting company, and they really have cheap hosting. it's not fast. You can't expect that. In my case, I have a virtual private server, so I can install everything myself. I use Ubuntu 20.04 on it, and I installed PHP and MariaDB. And also, I use Nginx as a web server instead of Apache. I installed also some cache called Redis, but you can use other stuff as well, like Memcache or Varnish. And of course, you have to do something about the HTTPS. And for that, you need some certificates. And I started out using TLS 1.3, which is the most recent version. And of course, I did Lighthouse test and I tweaked and I tested. There are also other tests that you can perform. I always start with Lighthouse first. And when those figures are okay, then I start doing all other online tests. So how did I implement everything? Well, I use Joomla, I use 4 languages, I use a template from UTeam, I use a multi-domain plugin, and a couple of extensions that help me making the website easier. But I can, the supporting extensions, I can just remove and then the website will continue to work. So with Joomla, I use Joomla 3.9, an English version, of course, that's out of the box. And then I installed 4 languages, Dutch, German, French, and Spanish. And I configure it that the website was multilingual. And when you see your website, then you have /en or /nl or /da for all the languages, or fr and as. What I did was I created language association on menu items, meaning if you are reading an article which is called a fast website, it's in English, and you click on the Spanish language, then you should go to the same article in Spanish. So it should be something like El Sitio Rápido or something. And when you click on another language, you should go to there. And you accomplish that with menu item association. So you can also associate items on category or on article level. And I definitely recommend to do so, because it makes it much easier to maintain your website, because you can see I have this article and it associated with 4 other languages, so I have the languages with it, so it's complete for all the languages. I have to tell you that I'm not really a big fan of club templates, because a lot of club templates have a lot of extra code and extra module positions, which make it difficult to set up a website. And also because of all the extra JavaScript and all the CSS, the website won't perform too good when you start with it. One of my customers, she wanted to do everything on her website herself on the front end, and she wanted to use UTeam Pro for it. And I was a bit hesitant about it, because I prefer to do the websites, the templates myself. But anyway, I installed UTeam for her. I helped her setting it up, and she has 15 pages created with it. When I was doing tests with UTeam Pro, I found out it's responsive, like a lot of templates are, which is good. But it's also good for the images. It optimizes the images in it. It has a page constructor, and you can import stuff from UTeam itself. So all kinds of snippets with layouts, you can just install from their website. You just import it. And when you create something nice, you can export it and import it on other websites. So my customer is using the page builder in it. You create single pages. I don't like that, because one time she had 15 pages and she wanted to change something, and I had to help her changing it in 15 pages. I prefer to use something they called templates. And actually, when you see templates, it's not the templates like Joomla templates. You have to think about templates in UTeam as snippets or views. And when you do so, you can use them with dynamic content, meaning you just use the stuff from articles or categories, and I will show you. So when you are in the backend of your Joomla website and you choose for UTeam Pro when it's installed, you can see on the left the UTeam menu with builder and templates, and on the right you can see the front end of your website. And when you choose Builder, then you are ready to build just one page. Just like front page 98 in the past, you're building just pages. And when you have a large website like I have 3 or 4 menu items, and each have 7 or 8 different articles. So it's about 30 articles per language times 5, because I have 5 languages. So 150 pages I have to create. And when you want to change something, it's a hell of a work. So I don't use the builder. There is also the templates, which you have to think about views. And by default, you have the single article or the category block view. And what I did, I just created a single article view, and I call it the best website article, and I assign it to a couple of categories. So when you open an article from a certain category and it is associated with the template, the view, then it will load this view. So, for instance, I'm here on a fast website page, just looking at it, and I just created some elements like the image. This is the intro image. So the article, what you see here is the intro image, and it's all for everything is dynamic. So I do it once, and then when I create new articles, I just use Joomla to create the new articles, and everything I put in the articles are automatically put in the right places. So regarding the category block, I have 2 category block templates that I made, 2 views, one for the home page and one for all the other pages. And when I show a page like this, I get information from the title, the description, and also the image. For the single articles, I have 3 templates for single articles, one for all the best website articles, so it's 2 menu items that have all kinds of pages beneath it. I also have an error page in every language, and I have a menu called Test Your Website. And let me go to the website. First of all, I have 5 languages, and I registered 5 top-level domains. And what do you do to have all the 5 languages with the 5 top-level domains in just one Joomla website? Well, there was something called language domains or something, or it was made by Jesse Reitsma from Girio, and he no longer maintained this plugin. But the top-level domain will load the language, and when you change the language, it will load another top-level domain. And it was a nice plugin, and what I used it for my site, but I made some small modifications. I made it so that Joomla 3.9 likes it, and it's now compatible PHP 7.4. I use namespacing, also the Joomla code style. It's available for free, and you can find it on GitHub. This is the link to it. So what you do in the backend, when you have installed it, you just do some bindings, like all the language strings, I mean NL or ENGB, and then equals, and then the domain name, and then you bind the language to the domain name. So I will show. This is the fast website. So if I go to a reliable website, this is in English. When I go to Espanol, I go to un sitio web confiable, and I can also go to the Dutch, and it's always the same. I use the same intro image for all the articles. I use the title. I use another image here, and at the bottom I have another image. This is a parallax image, and this is the full text image. So this is how I set it up, and this is the same page in French. And also funny, if you go to English and you put lang is DE, so DE is Dutch, German, and you get the same page. Oh, it doesn't work now. Oh, I don't know. I should have done it like this. So now I go to the German page. or this is the Spanish page. So this is how this is how the front end works. So let's get back to my presentation. Are there any questions so far?
We have a couple of questions starting to come in just directly to me. If anyone else has questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A tab in the session. So Peter, if you have a Joomla website with a page builder other than UTheme Pro, you mentioned that this is the platform that has possibly the best optimization opportunity. But if you have another page builder platform, what is the best optimization result that you could expect to achieve on Lighthouse?
That's difficult, because if you have a lot of stuff, when you load a lot of stuff, then what you can do is there's an extension called JCH Optimize. And when you install it on your website, when you have, for instance, a website with a page builder and a lot of CSS files and a lot of JavaScript files, then JCH Optimize will combine them to a couple of files. So instead of 20 files, you may end up with 3 or 4 files, which loads faster on a lot of shared hosting servers. So that's one of the things. And you can also do stuff with images. Just optimize your images, and then it's better than if you put large images on the website.
Absolutely, that makes sense, and great recommendation there. And I have another question that just came in. How easy is it to do this without the UTheme template? How easy is it to, and I suppose you may have answered that a bit with your answer on the JCH Optimize, but what are your thoughts? How easy is it to optimize generally without the UTheme template?
It could be done, especially if you create your own template and you don't load a lot of stuff. You avoid jQuery, you just use vanilla stuff, vanilla JavaScript. But some extensions that you might have on your website, some components, some of those just need jQuery to function. And then you need to load it anyway. And when you use Protostar, for instance, it already loads jQuery and other stuff by default, and also Bootstrap. And when you don't want to use that, you have to unset it in your own template. So you first load it and then unset it. It's a weird thing, but then you can optimize it a bit. Okay, I will continue with the tweaking now. And after that, I have again room for a couple of questions.
Great.
So using Lighthouse to tweak your website, Lighthouse has 5 different options. You can test for performance, accessibility, best practices, and search engine optimization. And there is also a 5th one, which is called PWA, meaning progressive web apps. I have not optimized my website for that. I don't have my website as a progressive web app, so therefore I did not test it. So let me just go to my site, and can you still see my website in incognito mode?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. So I use Lighthouse. I generate a report for performance, best practices, access, and SEO, and desktop. And it's always tricky to do it when you have a video conference, because the computer itself, it takes a lot of resources, and also it still works. So this website is scoring 4 times 100. And so this is how you do it. And you get recommendations when you're not scoring 100, and like eliminate vendor block source, and all this information you can use to tweak your website. So let's get back to the presentation. So first, performance. The important thing with performance is that you have to have a fast server and also a fast connection to the server. Another thing is Apache is a really nice web server, It's open source and you can do a lot with it, but Nginx is somewhat faster. So if you have a choice between Apache and Nginx, I would go for Nginx. However, on shared hosting, Apache is the most common one because you can use htaccess to override stuff. And with Nginx, you have to do everything in a server block. So you can do it on your own server. And with Apache, you can just use Apache with your own configuration in the htaccess. A second thing is load little, meaning don't load a lot of JavaScript. Don't load stuff from external websites. Don't load stuff from, for instance, the Facebook likes, like your friends like this or whatever. Also optimize your images. And a lot of things like jQuery, it's JavaScript, it's really nice. But for most websites, the things that are programmed using jQuery, if you do it in vanilla, so just in plain JavaScript, then you don't have to load the jQuery library. And then your website will be faster. A third thing is, please try to load files instead of stuff from your database. So use Joomla cache, like the conservative cache. And also when you have the possibility of using server cache, in my case, I use Redis, please do, because it will make your website a lot faster. The second thing is accessibility. And on my website, thebestwebsite.com, I talk about a couple of things, and two of those are observable, meaning a person with visual impairment, when they are visually impaired. It's very important that your HTML code in your website is semantic correct, and it's also semantic, that it has a main part, and that you know what is what. So this is a title, this is a title of a paragraph, this is a title of the page, etc. Another thing is make sure that the contrast between your text and the background is good enough. There are a lot of tests for that. And the other thing is, when people are on the website, they also need to control the website. And when you have images, please put alt tags under it so they know what it is, and especially when you can click those. And a lot of websites have a menu on top of the screen, which is okay. But in my case, I have 4 different menu items with 7 submenus, meaning I have about 30 pages, 30 menu items. And I do it 2 times because I also do it for the mobile phones. It's also there. So people who want to have a screen reader, who have a screen reader to look at your website, everything is read out loud to them. So please create a skip to content. So on top, you can skip to content. You just skip all the menu links, and then you immediately go to the content. Then best practices. Make sure your website is HTTPS, what I did. And if you have HTTPS, don't put any HTTP links on the website, because otherwise your best practices won't be 100%. The same with JavaScript. If you use old jQuery versions, you might have a warning like, this one is vulnerable, you should have a more recent jQuery. And then the best practices won't be 100%. Another thing is, if you have the secure content, you also need a secure connection. So the HTTPS, please use a modern TLS version, like 1.3. And I come to this later. And the other thing is, there is something called HTTP security headers. You can set that up in your web server, or you can do it in Joomla itself. So the HTTP security headers, they instruct the browser of the visitor how to behave when a page is loaded. For instance, if you have HTTPS, you can communicate to the browser of the visitor, hey, this website is available as HTTPS, and it should be available in HTTPS for the next 365 days. If not, please give an error, because that's not that good. It should always be available as HTTPS. Or you can also communicate, we do not use the camera, or we do not use the microphone or your location on this page. And if you get a notification for that, like we want to know your location, then please don't do it, because yeah, we don't use it. I told you that you could set it up in your server. That is, if you have your own server. There's also something called a plugin. It's HTTP header by 024. Tobias from Germany, he made this for Joomla 4. It will be a core plugin in Joomla 4, but he also made it available as a Joomla 3 backport, so you can install it on your Joomla 3 website. And when you configure it correctly, you can go to a website called securityheaders.com, put your own website in it, and I hope that you get an A+. Most websites start with an F, and if you have a good hosting company, they already added a couple of those, then you might start with a C or something. But A is possible if you do it. Then search engine optimization. Very important for search engine optimization is the URL structure. So I always start with categories and then what articles. I have a category blog page and articles, sim articles underneath it. When I do so, I really have a nice URL structure. And the same with the meta description and the browser page title. I always set for every page its own unique browser page title. I use meta descriptions. Meta descriptions are not used for the ranking in Google, but sometimes Google takes your meta description and puts it as a description below the title of your page. So you can make it more interesting for users to go to your website. I already told that the content structure and the semantic HTML is important for accessibility. It's also important for search engine optimization. So if your website, if you score very good for accessibility, then SEO will also probably be good if you do everything. Also, when you do something with semantic content, please use H1, H2, etc. And also put an alt tag in your image for your images. And of course, use the keywords in your content that you want to be found on. You can do all those things with Joomla itself. You don't need anything to do this kind of stuff. However, there is a commercial extension. It's called PWT SEO. And this is a really, really nice optimization tool. More about that in a few slides. Then I have also microdata on the website. One of the things that I don't like about Joomla Pro is that it strips the microdata. And with another plugin, I just get my microdata back like I want to. And of course, also I use a sitemap. Let's first talk about PWT SEO. So when you write an article in Joomla, PWT SEO gives you the opportunity to define a keyword or keywords per article. And then it analyzes your page on the fly and it does some recommendations. And there is also a page where you have an article overview. You see all the articles with all the keywords and all the test results just on one page. So let's assume I'm writing a fast article. I use a keyword and then I get all these recommendations. And this is how Google will present this page. So the best website is a fast website. It took it probably from my meta description. And this is the page where I have all my English titles and also the keywords and the SEO score. And with this, when they are green, then you are good to go. And most of those is, I think it's 75% or so. Then microdata. If you have content on your website, we as humans, we can understand what you mean with it. For instance, if you have an address, we can understand, okay, this is the street name, this is the postal code, this is the city, and this is the country. Oh, and this is the phone number. If a search engine visits your website, it's more difficult. They don't know the context of all the content. So with microdata, you can add context to your content. And by default, if you use Protostar, your Joomla articles will have something where it says https scheme.org/article. Scheme.org is a place where all schemes for microdata are stored. So your web browser or a search engine might go to schema.org to article, And then it knows, okay, if I see a headline, the item property is headline, then it's the headline, the article title of the article. So my UTeam strips it for, I don't know why, but I use a plugin from Tasos Marinos to get it back. And this plugin is for free. And if you have other extensions, I would recommend to use the paid one, because then for a lot of extensions, he has a commercial version that also adds it for that. Then I use OSMap free. It's a sitemap, and it creates sitemaps automatically. And I use it for an HTML sitemap for visitors, so you can easily see all the content on the website. But I also have an XML version, and I use that for the search engines. And I use one sitemap per language. Then a part is usability. So two things I like to tweak in my website is the choices when you write an article. And also, when I write an article, I would like to link to other articles, and JCE editor makes that easier. And what D2 content is something else. So let's assume you write an article in Joomla, and it's about a fast website. You have content, images and links, options. The SEO score is if you have PWT SEO. But publishing, associations, configure, edit screen, and permissions are all Joomla default tabs in an article. So if you are on the content tab, you write your text. On the side, you set the status, the category, and also the language. And then when you're done with that, you go to the second tab, which is called images and links. And you put in your intro image, the alt text, the full text image, the alt text. And I used to use the link A and link A text for an extra image. But recently I started moving them out here and putting them in my content as custom fields. Then I go to publishing, and I put in the meta description that will be displayed on the Google search result page. And finally, I go to associations, and I associate this page, a fast website, with all the other equivalents, like een snelle website, eine schnelle website, un site rapide, un sitio web rapido. So that's what you have to do when writing an article. You have a lot of options, and I didn't go to options. You have really a lot of options. Actually, there are 76 fields in a normal Joomla article, and they are divided over 7 tabs. I only need 14, which are on 3 tabs. So I have to navigate to all the 3 tabs all the time. I'm co-developer of an extension called D2 Content. And with D2 Content Pro, you can create your own profiles. So you can create a profile per user group. And since the end of March, we released a new version where you can also assign it per category. So how it looks like if you go to D2 components, D2 content profiles, or here go to D2 content, it's a module. Then in the profiles, you can see all the profiles you have, the groups they are assigned to, the categories they are assigned to, and the amount of fields that it has. So let's click on the best website. Then it opens up a configuration screen, and I can create a user group for the super users. In this case, I didn't assign it to the categories. I use it everywhere. Here, I just configured all the fields, and these are all the fields that are available in Joomla articles. And when I'm finished, I just save it, and I can also export it and import it on another website. So if I have a nice editor view, then I can reuse it on other websites. By the way, D2 Content is a separate extension, so you can also still use Joomla's content. So the articles of Joomla itself. But D2 Content articles, it has an extra feature that you can show the intro images, or you can switch it off, or you can switch it to the size of the images. So it doesn't show the images, it doesn't load all the images if you have huge images, but it will only show the sizes. And when you click on one of those, for instance, a fast website, I don't have all the tabs that I used to have. I only have one tab called content, and here I have all the fields that I want to fill out, and of course my text. And when I save it, I just go to the next one. So Everything I need is just on one page. I don't have to think about everything. Where do I have to fill out stuff, etc. JCE editor, I really like this extension. I have the Pro version because it also can optimize images when you upload those. In my case, I prefer to use it for creating links to other articles. Oh yeah, and for this, Joomla by default has tiny MCE with a lot of buttons, and JCE has less buttons. I mean, you can configure those. You can configure tiny MCE as well, but this is much easier, and also you have much more options to configure it. And what I like about it, this is also in the free version. If you have a text somewhere, you select the text and you say insert, then you can just insert, put a keyword here, and it finds an article and you can link to it. So some other tweakings I did. Regarding secure connections, I already told you that I have HTTP TLS 1.3. I have also HTTP security headers. And I also secured communication. So if you send email from your Joomla website, by default, it's PHP mailer. Please use SMTP and then the TLS version. So it's SMTP-S, so secure SMTP. And also configure your DNS with anti-spam stuff like SPF, DKIM, DMARC. If a visitor fills out your form and your website will send a notification to the visitor's email address, with these anti-spam measures, you have more chance that it will end up in his email box and not in his spam folder. I did something with the mobile for mobile friendly. When you click on menu items, sometimes Joomla refreshes and you can't use that on the phone. So I create page headings instead. Regarding the images, on my website I have large intro images and also a parallax image. For mobile phones, I removed those and I replaced the big intro image with a really small image, so it's better for mobile phones. Then privacy friendly. I added information about myself on the website, so people who come on the website can find out who is behind the website. And also I have a privacy statement where I tell what I collect and what I do with it. I collect nothing, by the way, nothing with personal data. I also limit external sources. I don't use any external sources. I have the web fonts on my own site. I started out using Google Analytics, but I quit doing that. And I don't use external tracking cookies from third parties, or I don't use the Facebook pixel. Any questions so far?
All right, we had a question about JSitemap Pro. You mentioned using OS Map for your sitemap. What are your thoughts, Peter?
What you just said, what was it? JSitemap?
Yeah, JSitemap Pro was asked about.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the OS Map Pro has, but I know that JSitemap Pro, when you use that, you can also create browser page titles, I think, and the meta descriptions just from that extension. And that's a nice feature. So I don't use it, but I know people who use it.
Perfect. That was the question we had for tweaking, so I'll let you get back to it. We have about 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, okay. So the challenges that I ran into. Well, first of all, I have 5 different languages. And when I'm in Qt Pro and I want to do something with the layout of another language, I get a white page. And that's because Qt Pro wants to visit the other website. But it's another website, so it doesn't work with that. It's only when I have to do stuff, especially that are for certain websites, like the footers. So what I just do is I go to the other website. So for instance, in Spanish, I go to the Spanish version to edit the Spanish footer. This is really just a small inconvenience because it's only when I have to set up small kinds of stuff. In normal use, I don't have this problem. Another thing is Google Analytics. When I started using it, Qt Pro only has one. You can only put one thing in your one key in your template. So what I did is I created an override. They call it a child theme, and in the override, I put my own code. I just copied the index.php of Qt Pro, and I put it in uteam_best. This is my own override, and I put this information in it. So I have the keys. I check the language and I put the key for the language in it. This is not the right thing to do, by the way, because things in UTeam, you can't get them in your own website. So template override, the advantage is you have no changes, so it won't be overridden. But if there are improvements, you don't get the improvements in your website. So, and also I didn't like Google Analytics because it's too much info if you go to Google Analytics. It changes too often, and also privacy issues. I don't like it. So therefore I switched to Matomo. It used to be Piwik, and I have all the data on my own website, web server. I created, there is a Matomo plugin, but I created my own system plugin because I needed cross-domain linking. There is also the 404 error in Joomla. When you use UTeam Pro, it's not nice. You just get a 404, no menu and no layout. So what I did, I created error pages for every language, and they are linked to a hidden menu item. And I created template overrides. So the template override for the error page has something like the language and the menu item. And if I get a 404 error, then it will create a 404 header. So otherwise you will say success because it will load the page. But I just say, okay, 404, then I will load my page manually and then exit. This is really important to exit, otherwise you will say it's a 200 success. The issues I encountered. So I had 100% best practices, and one day it changed from 100 to 92. What's happening? And I was looking into the issue and I found out that the permission policy was not correct. What I did, I on another website already had this configured in the HTTP headers, and security headers, and I just copied to the feature policy because feature policy was the old name for permissions policy. Security header says, okay, this is great, it works. Lighthouse complained about it. So what I did to have to do, I had to change the permissions policy. I had to replace the semicolons with commas. That's everything I had to do. That was all. And then I had 100% again. The other thing I ran into, somebody complained, hey, it's not loading in Firefox. Maybe because I have the privacy patcher, maybe it keeps it from loading. And I looked into it and I found out that the CSS was not loaded. And it was a problem in my content security policy, which prevented internal CSS, which was really bad. So what I did, I had to change the content security policy. And if you run into this kind of problems, go to Google Chrome, look at network and also at console, and by network you can see which of the items is not loaded. It will be red, and in the console you can see the error. And for me it was all with the content security policy, which was too strict. A third thing, one time a person, I was having a meeting and she couldn't visit my website. So, okay, the first thing I always ask, okay, what browser do you have? In this case, oh, I have some old Safari browser. Yeah, that's because I can't update my Mac OS because it's really old, and yeah, I have to buy a new one. And but it works in Firefox, your website. Okay. The problem is, if people have old browsers, they have also old TLS versions that they can use. So they don't recognize the most modern, the 1.3. So what you have to do, in my case, what I did, I just switched to 1.2 as well. So now you can use 1.2 and 1.3. The last error I encountered, it was this week. I created a plugin for, first of all, the HTML sitemap in OSMap worked okay, but the XML sitemap gave an error. And what happened? I wrote a skip to content plugin, and it added a skip to link in the XML as well. So the XML became invalid. So what I had to do, I had to change my code just to exclude my plugin from running in OSMap when the view was XML. So when you go to the OSMap, so to the sitemap in XML, I mean in HTML, then it will just show, okay, with the skip to content link. So the result, I have one website with 5 languages, each under its own top-level domain. The tests are performing well. HTTPS is okay. There is a test called Modern Standard is okay. The security headers are okay. It's mobile friendly according to Google and Microsoft. It's now also privacy friendly because I got rid of Google Analytics. Before it says I have one advertising cookie, and now there's none. So this is much better. And what I also did, I have now an item on my website called Test Your Website. And when you put your own website here, it will create a page where it will show a couple of links. And when you click on those links, it will open a new page and it will do a test on your own website. And I use RSFON Pro for this with some code to generate this. So I had an idea about websites, about a website about websites, and it is called thebestwebsite.com. And I use Joomla with 4 languages and multilingual. I use UTeam Pro. I created a couple of views with dynamic content. I used a system plugin that I changed a bit to make it working with PHP 7.4. I did some tweakings with Lighthouse and also some other stuff. And I used a couple of extensions for improving the search engine optimization and also to improve the usability. And I had a couple of challenges with the Google Analytics and later on with Matomo and also with the error pages that I solved. And I had some issues with the HTTP security headers, with the HTTPS, and with the plugin that I wrote. The result is, yeah, I have a well-tested website. However, even the best website is never finished. I always have to keep on tweaking and keep on testing just to look if things change. And also, yeah, I have to keep on tweaking it. So, are there any questions about it?
All right, great talk, Peter.